Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. I had just painted this flower, getting ready for a review of these new watercolors by Altenew, and I thought it came out so lovely that it would be fun to do a tutorial of this. So I have got my paints here, I've got my water, 2 water buckets right off screen, and I will link the reference photo, but if I forget, it's just called Poppy, and it was from Unsplash, I believe, but I will try to remember to link it up below. I'm going to start off using a fairly juicy brush here, and I'm going to pick up some of this kind of corally looking red. It's actually called Tea Party. It looks like a quin coral, actually, and I want it fairly watery here. Okay. One thing I like about these paints is they move really well. What I'm going to do is I am going to paint the kind of the silhouette of this poppy. Okay, so this is going to be real fun. If you like to have, if you're striving to have a looser style with your paint and you find you really struggle with that, this is going to be real fun because right now what we're doing is we're just putting in this very loose shape here. Okay. I've actually got this one probably bigger than my other one, but that's all right because they're all going to be a little bit unique. You want this quite wet, and I'm painting this flat. Hopefully the glare is not too bad. I don't think it is. I think it's all right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean my brush, but it's going to be full of water, and I am going to make a stem going like that, and then I'm going to bring it up so it can kind of touch that flower. And I'm going to add some green. This is called Tropical Forest, I believe. And I'm going to add a little bit of, well, just darker green here. This is kind of like a hooker's green. Now it's so, I've got such a bead of water there. Look at how shiny. I don't know if you can see how shiny it is. It's shiny. And then I'm going to put a poppy bud. I'm just going to press my brush down and lift it. And I'm just going to kind of bring it over like a shepherd's hook. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit more of that yellowy green in there. Now, while everything is really wet here, I'm going to grab a credit card scraper. This is actually, you can do this too. If you have like an old gift card, just cut an edge off of it, and that way you won't lose it. I've lost little scrapers so much, and this just works a little bit better for me. I'm just going to pull off little hairs to get, you know how poppy stems, they've got that like fuzzy quality to them. So you want to go ahead and do that right now while you've got all this wet paint. So it's kind of like you're drawing a pen. Like you're using a, you could actually use a pen. You could use like a dip pen. So that's kind of what you're doing. And you can actually, on the head of the poppy, you can do like lots of little hairs there. That's just going to save you a bunch of work. Now I'm going to switch brushes to something that's not quite as absorbent. And I'm going to pick up some other colors. I'm going to go with... I think we'll go with this kind of lemony yellow here. I'll put some of this up here. Just throw it in a few areas. And I'm going to grab, I'll blot my brush off there. Going to grab some more of that nice coral color and throw it in some of these areas. So I can help define my shape a little bit. So the paper is wetter than my brushes. Now if you want, you could go in and use your credit card scraper again. In fact, why not? I didn't on the other one. I'll show you the difference in looks when we're done. But I do like the look, so I'm going to do that. First, I'm just going to kind of add some brush strokes just to give me that shape. Now, the thing I want to keep in mind is that I'm going to have some petals that are folding over, and I'm not going to want those to have any scrapes in them. So I'm just doing a few up in this one up here, this petal up here. Very lightly, barely touching the paper. A few down from this area, a few up from there. And I think that's all I'm going to do because I'm not sure about how these other petals are going to work together. Now, another thing I really enjoy doing is some spattering. And if you're not sure about spattering, try spattering in some water. You just do the water first, and that way you'll end up with random spatters. And then if you decide that you can control where you put your color a little bit more, so I can grab some of this and I can spatter that on top and let it flow, or I can pick some up and I can just dab it into the puddles, and I can help kind of control the chaos a little bit. Okay, so that's up to you. It's two different ways. Do whatever suits you better. I like to grab any color that I'm going to use in the painting. You can even spatter on top of the flower. That's going to give you a cool texture. And of course, you don't have to do this. And you're probably going to have a cool texture on yourself, so wear old clothes. I'm also going to grab some blue. And I'm trying to figure out what blue I used in my picture. I think I used this one here, really watered down. Now, if you're not sure about spattering a whole new color, you can just, again, dab it into the colors. But I'm just going to go ahead and flick that on there. Oh, I love that coral with that kind of phthalo sea blue. I just think it's so pretty. And then something else you can do, I'm going to switch to a different brush that's not quite so juicy. You can add in some grasses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some of that green that we had used. Just going to flick in some grasses here. I'm going to take some of the green that we used and mix it in with some of that blue. Add a little bit of that onto our bud here. This is such a great intro to loose painting because it's really, you can't mess it up, guys. This is fun, and you could just use this as a bookmark when you're done. You could throw it on a card base. You could probably put this on like a business size envelope, mail it to your friend, mail it to your grandmother, your sister, your old college roommate. Whoever could use a little bit of cheering up. And it's just a lot of fun. Alright, now, you have a couple options. You can let it air dry, or you can speed it up with the heat tool. Make sure you've got all the splashiness in there that you want before you stop. A fun thing to do is actually just leave it and come back to it, because when you do that, a lot of times you kind of forget how it looks. Sometimes you might be like, oh, I don't know if I should have done that, I don't know if I like it, but then when you come back to it, you're like, ooh, I like that, you know? I find, especially when I'm doing a loose style flower, I usually like it better when I come back to it. So what I'm going to do is let this dry, and then we'll come back. Oh, another thing you can do if you want is you can actually sprinkle some salt into those puddles if you want to. I didn't do it on the other one, but heck, I'm going to do it here. That way you'll get to see what it looks like. And when you do use salt, I highly recommend that you let it air dry, because you'll get a much better, much more effective result. Okay, so let this dry, air dry on its own. Give your eyes a break, and then we'll come back and we'll finish it up. Okay, this is dried. The other benefit to having your scraper tool, just cutting an edge off an old gift card or whatever, and using that for your scraper tool, is you actually have this side then to scrape off any salt. So you want to scrape that off, because that will cause problems when you try to paint over it. So you shouldn't feel any texture of the salt, but you get a really beautiful visual texture from that. And now we're going to go ahead and finish this up. So the first thing I want to do is go back with that liner brush. Maybe put a few more of the little grassy leaves here on top. We need a little more water in that. Gotta make it flow. And these are just very kind of like very jagged, grassy type leaves. You don't want to cover everything up, but you do want to just add a little bit of movement there. And now we're going to work on the petals. So we've got a petal that's kind of coming across there and folding over, and it's a little bit darker than what we had on top. And to make the red appear quite a bit darker, we might need to add a little bit of that blue that we flicked into the background, but let's just try the red on its own and see what we get, because these colors are pretty intense. So I'm just going to start by sketching in the leaf, or the petal rather. Bring it up like that. I'm just going to put a glaze on there. Got a little bit of that light shine through right there. Just leave that nice and bright. Maybe just round. Let's see, we've got this other petal here that's going to go like that. Put a glaze on that. So we're just filling it in with this same coral color, and you can see as it goes over an area that's got the scraping, it gets a little bit darker on the scrapes. Now that we know where these colors are going to be, though, we can go in and add some scrapes up from the edge, just to give it a little bit of texture. You don't have to do too much. I'm going to try that blue. We use this blue here. I'm going to try that. Look at that. Makes a really nice plum color that I think would be a really good shadow for some of these areas. Just put it along this edge so we have a nice contrast with the back of the flower. I'm going to put some in here. And maybe a little bit right along there too. Okay. And now up here we have this big petal in front is light, and that one back there is darker. So go back to that tea party color, which is like a coral. We'll get that in there. And we can throw a little bit of, actually let's do that with a liner. We could put some, little bit of kind of crepiness. You know what, I'm gonna flip this upside down so I don't drag my hand. And all that nice, nice new fresh paint. So just make sure you're kind of going in the same direction that you put some of those scrapes in. You don't want to cover up everything you have underneath, because when we splashed those yellows, I think that looks so pretty on there. So we want to make sure we don't lose all of that. We just want to enhance it a little bit. Yeah, it's going to puddle on me. I don't want that to happen. And I think I will do a little bit of scraping and adding a little bit of the blue mix. Right in there. Okay, now I'm going to take the green and I'm going to extend our stem. I'd like to do the hairs with a scraper. I just feel like it's a little bit finer. A little bit more of that warmer green there, and I think I'm gonna call that a day. I think that looks cute. I think it's fun. You can add more spatterings, of course, if you want. Like on this one, I had more splashing. I was just playing around. do it however you want to do it, and that will be great because it will be an expression of your style and an expression of your creativity. Thanks for watching. Please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. I'll have the supplies linked in the video description. And until next time, happy crafting.